We now want to turn our attention to major crime in a big city, in a state that's been run by Democrats for decades. Politicians there say already strict gun control laws are not strict enough, evidenced by 33 shootings in the city this weekend, with 5 dead. Last weekend, 24 shot, 6 dead. I'm not talking about Buffalo, where the president visited today, though. I'm talking about Chicago, where he came last week. The mayor in Chicago, though, appears far more concerned about COVID and abortion rights than the continued carnage in her city. Chicago Tribune beat reporter tweeted, Mayor Lori Lightfoot's office just declined my request for an interview around her 3-year anniversary without explanation. We will, of course, continue to do journalism. We hope that they will, because she doesn't like to talk very much. It's a departure from last year's mayoral anniversary, when the mayor only granted interviews to reporters of color. Either way, the mayor has a new priority, COVID, because cases are on the rise in Chicago. In fact, she's ready for masks again as cases spike. Never mind, far more people died in the past 6 weeks from shootings than from COVID, but she appears unable to let a good distraction go to waste. Vince Colonnese, leading Washington, D.C. radio host, editorial director of the Daily Caller's here. Jason Nichols, professor at the University of Maryland. You can watch them both together without me. Vince and Jason Save the Nation podcast. I will be appearing as a guest sometime soon at a to-be-determined date. Okay, good. I got that under control. All right. Jason, in fairness, why is there this extreme rush now to talk about COVID in these big cities? I'm thinking about Chicago, when crime is such a bigger threat to life.
So the one thing that, we have to think about, like I looked up the statistics, and about 15,000 people died of COVID in Cook County over the past 2 years. About 1,600 died of homicide. And that's a large number. That's too large. It certainly has spiked over the last 2 years, but far more people have died of COVID. And so when you want to protect,
but Jason, we talk about what's happening right now, not what's happened in the past, and the threat right now. You think about last month, 8 COVID deaths, 54 people murdered, and a lot of those were young people.
Sure, absolutely. I think first of all, we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think we can battle COVID and crime and, particularly homicides. And the way to really solve homicides is to actually solve them. And only 200 of about 800 homicides last year in Chicago and Cook County were actually solved that led to charges by the police. So I think that one place that we could look is for reforms and better policing in Cook County. But at the same time, when we look at COVID and what it's done to Chicago and what it's done particularly to people of color in Chicago, when you start seeing numbers spike up, you need to act vigilantly and go after that and keep people from being another major spike in the city. Of course, homicide is certainly an issue, and crime is certainly an issue, and I think that both need to be attacked by the leadership in the city.
Vince, bigger picture. What is more of a problem going into the midterms for Democrats, the rise in crime or rise in COVID cases?
Crime, 100%. And in fact, I think the two issues are actually associated in a big way. You think about when we saw crime rise nationwide, separate and distinct from Democrat-run cities and their policies. It was COVID lockdowns. And in fact, the lockdowns that many of the Democrats led were the overzealous ones that led the cities to be crushed down, kind of these dystopian hellscapes that if you broke out, maybe you'd see like very few people on the street. We all remember this in the pandemic, especially those of us who've been in the cities. There was a huge rise in crime during all of that was directly associated with the disruption to people's lives. And we are still feeling the effects of that. The answer is not to put us back into lockdown phases. That's only going to accelerate the crime problem. And we know, especially with the COVID stuff, they're not even talking about the actual remedies that matter. The cloth masking has been defeated as a meaningful way to stop COVID. Nowadays, the idea that young people need the boosters, again, this is all being defeated. But what you have is a Chicago leadership that is incapable of pointing to success when it comes to people's lives. And so they need to, the reason they're thinking about bringing back restrictions is they need to have the appearance of doing something to make it seem like they know what they're doing, but they are failing.
Jason, living in Chicago, the appearance of doing something. The mayor refuses to do anything about crime, as does the city attorney and the prosecutor here. Is doing something about COVID a politically expedient move?
No, I think saving lives is an expedient move, both politically.
Right, but they're not saving lives. The
when
people
it
are getting
comes to
shot,
humanity.
right?
When we're talking about that, like I said, you actually have to go after crime. You actually have to solve crimes. But you also have to think about people's health and well-being, which would include COVID. And it's funny that, people talk, you led off talking about Democrat-led states. And, when we look at where crime is the worst, where gun crime is the worst, a lot of that is actually in Republican-led states.
Jason, don't get me started on that study. It's been widely debunked. They weren't even using full FBI data. Come on.
Have you been to New Orleans, and have you been to some of these other?
You can't compare.
You can't.
Oh, come on. Really? You're going to all of a sudden say that the crime in Atlanta is the fault of the Republican governor there? Come on.
Oh, no. What I'm saying is that we have an issue with crime, and that it is not a partisan issue. We have issues that have to do with housing and bad education and many things that actually spike crime that can be proven.
Well,
but to make this about Democrat-led cities, where we can look at Miami or Jacksonville or Tulsa,
if I could,
hold on. Let's get Vince in here. I can't imagine that crime isn't partisan, Vince.
No, of course. Here's the way the Democrats play a role. Democrats do run the largest cities in the country, and this is where we're seeing a lot of the biggest violence. And the problem has been a culture among the Democrats of being forgiving of crime. But you see these reports. You have out of aldermen in Chicago who say that police officers are hesitant to actually enforce the law when it comes to especially black perpetrators for fear that they are seen as racist. That is not a system. You need a colorblind system. You need one that doesn't regard people on the basis of the color of their skin and enforces the law, because people need to understand that there are consequences for their actions. Right here in Washington, D.C., from where I'm broadcasting, or just outside of it, you've got kids who are routinely carjacking people, and this is getting out of control, at least in D.C., and they're facing no consequences, no meaningful consequences, and that's how you help to make sure that these things happen again in the future, Jason, and maybe even get worse.
Jason, I only got 15 seconds. We can all agree that consequences for carjacking is a good thing, right?
Absolutely. I think that, of course, there should be consequences for crime. There should also be things like prison reentry and things that we need to.
We got to get people into prison. We got to get people into prison before we can get them to reentry. I got to run. I'm sorry. I got to run. But gentlemen, it was good to see you. And I'm now looking forward to being a guest where I don't have to have the questions. All right?
It's going to be great. We'll go long form. It'll be awesome. We'll save the whole nation.
It's going to be fun. See you guys soon. Live pictures. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.